The term dependence is used by investment academics to refer to the relationship between the closing price of one trading day and the closing price of the previous day, and it is the subject of much heated debate. Academics and investment analysts often say that there is no dependence between the prices of one day and the price of the next day. They say that these things are essentially random. What they are saying is that there is no relationship. In other words, that these things are completely unrelated, unconnected, and independent. This idea is embodied in a concept called the random walk theory. The random walk theory is based on two fundamental assumptions. First, that in the market there are always many willing buyers and many willing sellers. Secondly, that important information about the share is disseminated to all interested parties, in other words, investors, existing shareholders, potential investors, and so on, at the same time, and that they all respond to that information in a rational and intelligent manner. Now, of course, we could say that for a share like Sasol, which has more than R1 billion worth of shares traded every day, on average, there are always many willing buyers and many willing sellers. But you can't say that the information, the important information about Sasol, which would move its share price, is known to everybody at the same time, and that they all respond to it rationally. In my experience, the first people to know important information about a company are the directors of that company. So if there's going to be a takeover, or if the company has just produced a very bad set of results, they will be the first people to know. After them, the next group of people would probably be the professionals that company employs, like accountants, lawyers, auditors, stockbroker, and people like that. The stockbroker, of course, once he knows this information, may well include it in a research report to his major clients. His major clients would typically be big institutions like pension funds and unit trusts and insurance companies. After that, the information might get into the hands of a journalist on the business day. He will write an article, but even then, probably only about 5,000 people would read that article and become aware of this important information. So, as you can see, information is disseminated slowly through the market. Also, of course, different people will react to it completely differently. A highly trained professional investor will react to it accurately. An untrained person who has no experience of the share market will probably not react to it at all. So there's a variety of different reactions as well. And this causes what the academics call an imperfection in the market. And it is those imperfections which enable us to find patterns within the share price. In other words, what I'm saying to you is that the market is not really random, and that share prices move to some extent in patterns. This reminds me of something that happened many, many years ago. I was lecturing to the adult education group at Wits University. And during my lecture, I talked about the moving average, and I talked about things like stop-loss strategies and so on, all of which are elements of technical analysis. And then, at a certain point in the lecture, a man stood up at the back of the room and introduced himself as the professor of business economics. And he said, look, isn't the market really random? I mean, surely all this charting and technical analysis is a waste of time, because the market is basically random. So I said to him, well, Professor, I'm not a professor and I don't have a lot of academic qualifications, but I am a professional investor, which means I make my living out of the share market. So I would like to make a little bet with you. I'd like to bet you that Anglo-American share price will close tomorrow within 5% of tonight's close. And you must bear in mind, of course, that we didn't know either of those prices at the time that I proposed this bet. And I said, I will give you 10 times the value. In other words, if you bet 1,000 Rand and I lose, I'll pay you 10,000 Rand, and so on. And I don't care how much you put down. You can put down as much as you like. How could I make such a bet? It's easy. Anglo American share price has not moved more than 5% in a single trading day, except on perhaps 30 occasions over the last 100 years. My statistical probability of being wrong in making that bet was extremely low. You see, if Anglo really was moving at random, if the share price really was random, then it could go from last night's close, which was probably about 70 Rand, to 1 Rand tomorrow, and then to 1,000 Rand the next day. I mean, a random series can do that. And common sense will tell you that you and I know, this is never going to happen. Anglo's never going to move like that. And if it doesn't, then clearly share prices are not random. And if they are not random, then they must contain patterns. It merely remains for us to find the mathematical tools that will isolate and identify those patterns so that we can use them to predict the future. And that really is the subject of technical analysis, or charting as it is known.